to watch it. I've just seen
It's
stills.
just me being a goofball.
Hey, well, we're on, and it's Friday. Merry New Year, Scott.
Merry New Year. Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, that worked out perfect. We finally got timing right on this for a change. Well, how you doing today?
I'm doing.
I'm
Are we
pleased
far
to
enough
hear.
apart?
You're looking good.
Are we far enough apart?
My screen only shows about an inch, so nah.
I'm doing great, Dave. How are you?
You know, I'm very sad. Funny you should ask. This is the last drama of the year. We're not doing one Christmas Day. We got January 1st coming up. That's next year.
Wow.
Whatever we're going to do that day. But I'm glad to be with you and doing Pi Day Friday on for the last show of the year.
So I'm here with my special. You ready? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, look at that. It's got ribbons. All right. Well, if we're going to stand and deliver.
All right, here we go.
Pants on. Go shoot your eye out, kid.
I want a BB gun. A Red Ryder, right?
Red Ryder BB gun, exactly right.
Awesome. Most excellent. How are you? So what are we here for today?
I have no idea.
Our last drama of the year.
I know. So I thought I'd spice it up. We definitely have a schedule that everybody hopefully is aware of. We're going to do SSH connections, and we're going to set up some keys so that you don't have to get prompted for a password.
Oh, cool.
As I did the lab a few times this week and got it tweaked and tightened, I said, you know what? We need another lab. So I'm going to do another one before then. We'll call that one the main. Encrypting and decrypting files. And it's really, really cool. Like when you do it in Windows, of course, you click a button and it's encrypted, or you click the button and it's unencrypted. Here, it's Linux, right? There's nothing easy, but it's not particularly hard. And it just has such great CompTIA lessons built into it. It has such great practical value and as an overall learning. I'm giddy about it. Do I seem that way?
You seem that way. You seem positively giddy.
Well,
you have lovely Christmas decor in the background there.
Thank you. We bought the Charlie Brown tree years ago.
Excellent.
And love that thing. And honey's gotten me mini pies.
Yay. Because you didn't have enough.
Exactly. I'm a terrible Christmas shopper. I was shopping for the family last night online.
And shopping, I have yet to shop, so you're not as bad.
I'm going to have to get some store stuff because it's not going to come in on time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably...
why don't you tell everybody why we're here in general, Scott, and I'll put some stuff up.
We are here doing our Monday, Wednesday, Friday live shows from 2 to 4 p.m. on Central Standard Time for those of us who are locked down in quarantine, because we're kind of missing you and you're missing your instructors. And here's a good place for you to ask questions on CompTIA certifications such as IT Fundamentals, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. You can even go beyond that because we can. And we're also here to celebrate the use of the Raspberry Pi, which is a magnificent Linux running computer, tiny thing that we use in our CompTIA A+, Net Plus, and sometimes Security Plus classes for helping people learn about Linux and the stuff they need to do to become great techs. So that's why I'm here. Why are you here, Dave?
No, I'll follow this. I'm here to click on things like this that says, we would like to hear from you. Ask us questions. We're open to just about anything technology, certainly anything Pi, anything CompTIA. It's all fair game except religion, politics, and I don't want to ever hear the word COVID or any of its derivations again. Leave us alone. But if you can't ask a question on the thread, on the chat forum here, drop us a note. You can find me at daveR@totalsem.com. You find Scott at scottj@totalsem.com. Write Mike. He's Michael S. Are you ready for this? At totalsem.com. And you can catch us gaming on Steam at drushtx for me, Scarheart for Scott, and Senor Pepe, SR, Pepe, No, he's Senor. He spells it out. SENOR
Yes.
for Mike. We have
So,
discovered from the marketing department that it is both important, useful, and fun if you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So like and subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And maybe someday when they let me do giveaways on here, it'll be worth your while. And if not, I'll find another way to make it worth your while.
So
Yeah,
Mike Myers' email address is michaelm@totalsem.com.
I went for Michael Smyer, didn't I?
Yes, you did. It's all good. It would eventually get to where it needed to go,
That's
whoever
right.
you sent it to.
He probably would have answered.
Probably send it to Mike@totalsem.com and it'll eventually get to him. So there you go.
All right. Well, let me add this to the mix.
And Connor, I see you retracted your message, which said question. You are more than welcome to ask questions. That's what we're here for.
Yep. And another reason we're here for is, while I can't do giveaways yet, we will, I believe. We have specials for you. So AMA special for this week, 50% off all the A Plus, Net Plus, Total and Total Tester, Sims bundles, and Sec Plus Total Tester. Code is Holidays 2020. On Mike's Monday show, that's when we started this, because that's when we do. And a person added a note to the bottom of Mike's YouTube recording that said, tried this code and it didn't work. We think she probably just tried it a little too early. It wasn't set up yet, but we've gone and confirmed there's about 5 different ways you can spell this and get it right. But if you do it holidays, all caps 2020, or holidays, all lowercase 2020, when you check out, you can get this discount. Good through this Sunday. Are you and I the only ones who remember those commercials? Or do you even remember them?
I remember them.
Yeah, you're older than me, not by much, but your television watching in your youth was very different than mine.
That's true, because we didn't have a television. So that's not true. When I was a kid, I had television. Once I got into college and then grad school, I didn't. So there's this like big gap of like 10 years where I don't get any of the social references. Nope. It's very strange.
Especially to the rest of us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see who's here. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
Not that I've ever been strange or anything. Andre, my COVID do is called hair gel. I literally slicked it back right before this because it was like bozo.
I was about to say, it looks really good. You don't have the Superman swirl.
Yeah, I literally did it right before the show because I was a hat wearing, hair flying wild thing all morning. So,
well, I read all the commentary up till 2 o'clock. There's nothing there, so I'm going to start at 2 o'clock.
Okay. And
see where we go.
All right. So we of course have a zillion people here today, which is fun.
Yeah, nice turnout.
A lot of returning faces. So Elbow and Connor, Michael Reeves.
Right now, Michael Reeves, he's new for us, right? We've seen him in Mike's stream, but I think he actually said in here that it was his first time to Drama.
Okay, well, hey, that's awesome.
Welcome to Drama.
Yeah, welcome to Drama. And of course, Drama, or Drama plus S.
Drama,
yeah. Dave Rush, Ask Me Anything, plus Scott. Yeah. So there you go. Drama plus S. Tullowit, hey, good to see you always.
Absolutely, Tullowit. Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
And if you haven't seen the movie, you should definitely watch the movie.
All of them.
It's ridiculous.
Reading questions. I like the way Mike sings that when he does it.
Alan Duggan, good to see you. Dave Rush, never mind.
He's still my heart. Elbow and Alice are both here at the same time, so
I know it's kind of scary.
Alice will chastise Elbow when he bails for lunch, which you did it once at your desk. It was a good and positive thing for all of us. So be thinking about that.
All right. So
it took me a second here. I am not the big fan of this movie. I like it, but I don't watch it 3 times a year like a lot of you guys do. So I don't have most of the lines and quotes down, but I finally figured out the dog dare and triple dog dare. So, okay, yes, that was from that. He was one of my favorite actors, Darren McGavin. Love
Very
that.
fun. Oh, so that's what that's the double dog and triple dog dare. Okay, I got you. I remember now.
A Christmas Story.
Yep. And of course, there's one line in there for you, Alice. When they get a lamp and they open the thing and it says, fragile. It must be Italian.
I don't think I've ever noticed that.
It's when they pull the leg lamp out.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the leg lamp. I'm familiar. That's such a dark movie in so many places.
It's brilliant.
See, I'm not blocking that. Okay. Reading questions, passing 207. Michael. Well, that's true. Michael tries to ignore us when possible. When he was on here a couple of weeks, you had to be out of town, Scott. I was prepping the contact page, and he says, email only. They don't need to contact me on Steam, or any of the other alternatives. Okay, email only. You got it.
He's a lot more cautious than we are as far as like exposure to people. Right. He's also he's unlike Dave and I, he's not actually a teacher. He's a great tech and a great guy and an amazing, brilliant person, but not trained as an instructor. So he doesn't have that genetic desire to stand up in front of people and go, hey, let me tell you everything I know.
Also known in our terms as egomania. Okay, hey, so Brendan posted a question the other day on Discord, and I asked him to repost it here, excuse me, which he's done at 2:08. So he's, hey, Dave, how do you use a headless Raspberry Pi? Do you remote into it? All right, so anything headless is a computer, we'll take it on faith, that doesn't have a mouse or a keyboard or monitor. So you couldn't remote into it. I do that all the time. Let me set this up and show you. This will just take a couple of seconds.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and now we share it.
And then I disappear from the screen.
Ever so briefly. Okay, so here's a Raspberry Pi. This is headless, and I have it operational headless in two different ways. We are using the remote in method right now, if you want to describe it that way. This is similar to using Microsoft's remote desktop protocol, RDP. More specifically, it's VNC. I use virtual network control, I think, but I'm miking on that. I'm making it up, and Scott's looking it up. I can see him in the back channel. So while we do that, I'm going to go over here into preferences, and I'm going to go down into Raspberry Pi configuration.
It's called virtual network computing.
Okay, that was close. I'll take the mic excuse here. Don't worry, you'll never be tested on the definition on an exam.
It's not wrong.
That's so much funnier to Scott and I than you guys. Okay, so over here at interfaces, and you can see that I have two interfaces enabled. VNC is one of them. So Raspberry Pi in particular has a built-in VNC server that prefers a particular VNC client that comes from real VNC. We don't have to use that. There are 47 other varieties of VNCs, and they can all be installed here. Some of them are a little agnostic about which VNC clients that they use. Excuse me, but it's all the same. And then the other feature is I've enabled SSH, and that allows me to establish a network shell connection with it using a program like PuTTY, or using an SSH client that's built into every other Linux system. Even Windows has a built-in SSH client now, and that's a lot of what we're going to do today. There's a trick here that you need to be aware of. When did I enable these? Because you can't do it after you've done the install, or more importantly, after you've, how do I describe this? When I do my installs, I start them out with a mouse and a keyboard and a monitor. And then this is the last thing that I do before I disconnect those. There are other ways around this. It's kind of cool. when you make your micro, let me close out of here. You don't need to see this anymore for what I'm talking about. So when you're building your Pi for the first time, you download an image and you put it on a micro SD card. And you do that in a Windows machine or a Mac machine or another Linux machine. Well, there is on that card a small FAT32 partition. It's got a couple of files that are used to get things booted up. What you can do is before you take your micro SD card out of your computer that you just used to copy an image onto it, is to go into that little partition and create a 0-byte file, just a file with a name, and the name is SSH. So you can do that with Microsoft Notepad. So nothing in it, and just by virtue that it's there, when you go and install it in your Raspberry Pi and boot up your Raspberry Pi, it will support an SSH connection one time up until you boot the next time, because that file gets deleted as soon as it gets recognized and used. So at that point, you use an SSH connection to it, go into the raspi-config utility and real enable SSH or VNC. So that's what makes it headless. So now you can do everything either command line from an SSH client or graphical from a GUI client. Let me know if that helps. It helped me.
I thought it was great, but I'm a little prejudiced. I like your explanations. So for those of you who are here for the first time, Dave tends to drive the talking on this, and I'm like, the stand-up guy. But what happens is I'm looking at the questions that we're answering kind of in time on the screen behind my laptop. But then I'm also looking at your comments in real time over to the right. And so when I look over and I'm like watching your stuff, because I'm looking for spammers and that kind of stuff, right? Doing the moderator thing. But if I start laughing, it's not because I'm laughing at what Dave's saying, right? It's because one of you just said something ridiculously funny, like a snow owl sandwich.
I like that already. Well, there's a lot of Die Hard talk. Okay. Die Hard's not just a battery.
Which is arguably the second greatest Christmas movie ever. So,
with the first being
The Christmas Story.
Oh, okay. Thought you might have gone with
It's a Wonderful Life.
Wonderful Life, sure.
Too sappy, man. Come on.
Come on. For the 19-
No BB guns, no weird lamps. I mean,
That's the usual today, Elbow, not Ovaltine. They're getting ready to close out cider season. I don't like apple juice. That's a horrible thing. But I had hot cider last night as we watched television. So
nice.
A little cinnamon stick in there, and the world's a happy place.
So that's one of the saddest. Can I actually say this? I can say this.
Of course you can.
So we have a giant. Those of you who have seen the pictures and stuff on Discord. My entire neighborhood goes insane for Christmas, and we have this big neighborhood block party where we literally close the streets and people just are out wandering. And my family and I traditionally throw a party, which of course we didn't do this year because if they didn't have the celebration, it's just everything's closed down. But one of the things that is sort of the specialty of the house is hot apple cider sangria. Just delicious, and we have regular non-spiked stuff for other guests, but that's kind of the crazy thing that my wife invented for that. So I missed it this year. Speaking of cider, so there we go.
I like.
Now I guess should we segue to
go ahead
subnetting? Should we segue to subnetting at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me erase something here. So I've just copied a question from Alice that you may be able to hit half of it. I got the other half to be sure. But depends on how current you are. So at 211, 211. Difference between rogue DHCP and evil twin.
Which one do you want?
You take evil.
Okay. So an evil twin is a...
Oh, so never mind. Over there. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what?
No, my brain was on no sleep last night. I couldn't come up with evil twin. It just dawned on me what it is, but please finish.
Okay. So an evil twin is a wireless access point attack, right? Where somebody brings in a WAP that purports to be the wireless access point that people want to connect to. So it's usually named something very similar, or can even, so when the person walks into the coffee shop and says, oh, I need to log into, Coffee Days. Well, there might be one with a Z on it, right? And that's the evil twin. It's a way of, and the evil twin can be connected to the internet, right? So it looks, smells, and acts just like the regular WAP, except it's recording the information that's going through it in hopes of getting personally identifiable information, that sort of thing. So that's an evil twin. Rogue DHCP.
Yeah, finish it out. You got a good thing going.
So rogue DHCP, on the other hand, is not necessarily malicious. It's just when you plug a DHCP server into a network, and this is almost always somebody who's plugging a WAP in, right? Because they have DHCP as well, and they're plugging it in because they want to try and get wireless in their office or something, but then that wireless access point starts then dishing out DHCP information. And somebody who's just logging in, they might be physically closer to the non-DHCP server, and suddenly they're logging into a completely different network and they can't see any of their resources, and they freak out and they call tech support. Tech support jumps on you. They yell at you because you just plugged in a rogue DHCP server in your classroom in a secure government facility. Not that I've ever done that. More than twice. But yeah, no. So the rogue
and I'll never do it again.
Is more of an accident than a evil twin, which is a directed attack.
Nice.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
Alice.
Yeah, I can take that off my list because.
Well, there you go.
Man, I was working this morning and I kept dropping my head down in my soup and realized I just didn't sleep much last night. And so the brain's a tad fuzzy, but we got her.
We got this.
Connor Wellman, 215, question, studying for AWS certification, playing around in cloud to prepare for practitioner and architect exams. And then following up, but worry about going past the free tier. Is there a sandbox option out there where I can play around in the AWS environment without worrying about accidentally racking up a bill? So I'm taking that to mean that you have set up the free account on AWS, and there's a lot of free things that you can do there, but you can't set up even that free account without giving them your credit card. And if you bounce past the boundaries of what they consider free, they can rip your credit card. We had a subject matter expert on talking with Mike a while back who said he accidentally breached the barrier one time, very, very briefly, and wound up with an $1,800 bill. So, yeah, I don't have enough hands-on experience with AWS to tell you how to avoid that. Excuse me. They don't charge you much for storage. You can easily break that tier, but it's something like 6 cents a terabyte or something like that, 100 gigabytes or whatever. Scott's doing some research on it. I think he's going to check in with Michael, who has a lot of hands-on experience with this.
That's what I'm doing, yes.
There we go. AWS Sandbox for Practice, Michael Smyer. Okay, so we'll see what he says. We'll get back to you on that to the best of our ability, Connor. Hey, Kevin was up further. I didn't say hi when he came in, so greetings, Kevin Lopez.
Hey, Kevin.
My pleasure, Brendan. Still having that audio issue with YouTube videos and Chromeo through my Pi. I'm not sure what's happening. Me neither, because you and I have done the same setup, and I got fine audio coming across YouTube and everything else. So I'll work with you a little more on Discord. We'll see if we can find your problem. Brendan added something to a Raspberry Pi, a Samba, and suddenly his audio wasn't working correctly. We played around with it a little bit. I think he's gone for a full reinstall and still having the same trouble. So
weird. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we're at on that.
So 217, this is an interesting question from Michael. My school awarded me a digital badge that is equivalent to what I would learn for doing Security Plus. Would this be acceptable for employers, or should I still go for my Security Plus?
It's a question of what can you show an employer that this badge means?
Yeah.
Does it carry the same value? Is it something that an employer will recognize? So, if you're building this onto a resume, you got to put the badge and then you've got to put a glob of text that explains it. That seems a pain. It's also a pain to pay for a Security Plus exam, but it's a heck of a lot easier after that to say achieved Security Plus. So,
Right.
at the face-to-face interview, it probably has some value to add. But if you need credentials to pursue a job,
especially for a resume that's just going to go out to people who don't know you, don't necessarily know what your school is. So getting Security Plus, even though it's an extra couple $100, and obviously the time to study, I would tend to definitely go for the certification. Okay, unless the badge is a bachelor's degree in information technology. Yeah, that's different, because that would be good enough.
Yeah. So people are listing their Christmas movies. Michael Reeves went with one of my tops, Christmas Vacation. You're coming mud, huh?
After Caddyshack, I just have had a lot of trouble with Chevy Chase.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of people who do.
Yeah. But Trading Places, I forgot, of course, that's a great Christmas movie. Definitely not.
I never thought about that much as a Christmas movie, but sure.
So for all of you youngsters, that's an R-rated movie, but Eddie Murphy at his arguably finest. So
yeah. Michael doesn't get the gist of this. Let's invite him on and see what he can talk to us about.
Okay.
Let's see. Hey, David Zintera. Yeah, I like his explanation of 222. The difference between Alice's two utilities are the level of nefariousness. And you responded to that already. Okay. Super clear. Very good, Alice. Glad you got that. Gloria Estefan. Let it go with the Gloria Estefan stuff, Tulowit.
I know that's where I started cracking up when you're giving a nice serious explanation, and I'm like trying not to spew my coffee.
Yeah. Jeez. The whole point was never for him to look like Gerald Ford, David. That was a mannerisms bit. There's a house in my city that commemorates Christmas Vacation. Okay. Because it was in Chicago. You're in Chicago? I think that was Chicago based, right? Or maybe I'm just thinking Home Alone.
Or maybe you're thinking Die Hard. I don't know.
Yeah, Die Hard's New York and whatever. Hey,
Yeah.
we have caught up on the stuff at 227. Let me do a couple of notes here, catch up on my gobbledygookies. What's that? Okay, nothing there. All right, there was a question from last week. I have my unanswered questions I was unable to answer in the previous week, and I've got the review, what we did last time, what are we gonna do this time? So let me talk a little bit about that. It's not long, then we'll let some questions build up. We'll start the projects about on the hour. They're both pretty darn quick.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So every week I do an interest, and if Michael comes on, I'll be glad to stop.
Okay.
Every week I do interesting news, tricks, and techniques of the week. I have no personal stories other than one. This is really fast. I picked a tutorial a week or two ago to base today's big show on, and I just started working on it early in the week. And the first couple of chunks of it, I said, oh yeah, that's going to be really good. It's going to be really easy to follow. And then it turned into spaghetti. And I fought with that for a couple of days. And very interestingly to me, down at the very bottom of it, there were 3 reviews. Wonderful presentation, very clear. This has to be the guy's mother and his cousin, and maybe one that he wrote under his own pseudonym, because the tutorial we use today is so horrifically unclear and messy and miasmatic. Is that a word? It's a miasma. I, of course, have distilled it down into something brilliant and simple, and oh my gosh. So that's my only personal story of the week. Do I want to do this now? Yeah. All right, tip of the week. So this was something that I encountered while doing some other research and said, holy Hannah, that is something simple, cool, and fun to talk about. And I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but we're going to add some meat to the bones here. I ran into a tutorial on encrypting files and decrypting files in Linux systems. And, you know, we mentioned this at the beginning. In Windows, it's a really simple thing to do. You right click on a file or a directory and you go to properties and there's an encrypt option or a compress option. You get one or the other. You can never do both because it's just two halves of the same algorithm. So this requires a little bit more oomph behind it. There's a lot of capability and potential. I'm just going to show you one method here that's kind of slick. And we're going to use a utility called GPG, all one word, anytime. GPG stands for GNU, right? The free open source license. Privacy Guard, GPG. And I don't want you to confuse that with another common encryption technology found in Linux, PGP, which is pretty good privacy. PGP, I want to mention a little bit about it because I was thinking about it and studying it, thought it'd be good information. You know how we do asymmetric encryption over a network to establish a secure connection? Well, PGP was one of the first ones that did that. Back in 1991, a gent comes up with this for political reasons and not worth all of our time. He got sued by the government a long time, but that was all dropped. He called it Bassmatic back then. Hey, Michael's here. Let's hold off on this. We'll come back to that. Greetings, Michael.
Hello. What's up?
Wow, that's a great sweater, Michael.
We have a question.
You like that?
Oops, sorry. We have a question from a student that Scott and I don't have any personal experience with, and you do. So, Scott, fill him in if you would.
I would if I could find the question.
Michael Reeves.
I remember who
Okay. I should have marked the time on that. Well, I know it. It's no big deal. One of our folks is studying for some AWS certs, and he has an account on AWS and gave his credit card, but he doesn't want to ever have to use that credit card. And what he's looking for is advice to make sure that he avoids breaking the free tier.
Yeah. So the specific, Connor's specific question is that he's studying, right? So
yeah,
he's
of course.
ready for his certifications and stuff. But he wants to know if there's a sandbox option where he can play around without worrying about accidentally racking up a bill.
Kinda. A lot of the different services like EC2 and like have free tier components, I guess, in them that you can use. And they will say like free tier eligible, and free tier is a very specific term. So you should do some searching and look up what the current terms are on free tier. But if I remember in the past, it was you could use the lower end virtual machines and other services for the within the first year for free.
Cool.
Of signing up. So if you've had the account for more than a year, then you are no longer in the free tier.
Oh,
Right.
really?
So sign up
That's the best thing.
Sign up under your wife's name or something then.
Yeah, if you want to keep going free tier. But to be honest, you're not going to rack up a big bill unless you spin up a really big server and leave it running. Most of these things are pennies. Or fractions of a penny per hour.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize it was that expensive.
Yeah. I mean, where the cost is when you multiply that times 750 hours or whatever their kind of normal, monthly is. And then you can start to see what the actual monthlies cost. But unless you're like where one of the biggest costs for, say, a web hosting stuff is, like when I look at total seminars use, almost all of the cost is in bandwidth. It's sending the bits from our AWS services out to the customers. The actual like servers and stuff, relatively small.
Okay.
And if you're in the free tier, you can use those for free. But that's where the cost is. So yeah, even if you do stick to free tiers, there's a good chance, depending on what combination of services you use, you might end up getting billed for a few dollars here and there.
But there's no sandbox that he can work in and guarantee that he'll never break the barrier.
No. And in fact, that's kind of one of the things about AWS and any of these clouds is they do try to make it easy to use inexpensively or free to experiment with some of this stuff. But the side effect is, you can spin up a tiny server for free within the first year and use that to serve, gigs and gigs and terabytes of data, and you're going to not pay for the server and pay for the data. And that's why actually one of the more interesting security vulnerabilities out there is the authentication keys to actually use AWS and get in. Essentially, the computer version of your username and password often will get checked into source code, what called repositories, and then those will get uploaded to places like GitHub, and they'll be public. And so people will be working on an open source project, and they'll check in essentially their username and password, and then put that out for all the world to see. And then spammers will get in there and spin up as many servers as they can possibly do. And there's nothing to stop them.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, AWS has bots that look through GitHub and the other open source places looking for those keys, and they will send you an email like, hey, we found your keys in this open source place. You might want to take care of that.
Nice.
Wow. Okay.
There
That's
you go.
awesome. Thank you.
So, but yeah, no, it's
Great.
stick with the free, I guess to kind of wrap it up, stick with the free tier within the first year. Keep an really close eye on what if the service has a free tier or not. It will say if it has a free tier. In fact, let me see if I can pull an instance up here, and it'll show if it's free tier eligible. Usually they'll say free tier eligible.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what's going on. So.
And people were giving lots of, I don't know if you were following the live stream, but people were giving lots of love for that sweater, by the way.
Awesome.
That's right.
Well, I'll let you guys get back to it.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
All right. Bye.
Thanks. All right. So let me finish this up real quick. So we're going to use GPG today, which is a file encryption tool and decryption tool, as opposed to PGP, pretty good privacy, which is an asymmetric key exchange for moving data over a network.
Okay, cool.
Why this is cool today is not just because it gives us the ability to encrypt and decrypt files, but because of the other presentation that I'm going to do today. GPG allows you to do either symmetric keys or asymmetric keys. And so since I'm going to do asymmetric keys with the other presentation today, seemed like a good thing to do some comparison. So let's refresh ourselves. What is the difference? A symmetric key is simply when you use a given key to encrypt something and you use that same key to decrypt it. They're symmetric. Asymmetric keys are two different keys that are two halves of the results of the same formula. They're very different. So one encrypts and the other decrypts. And we always do it one direction. It's usually we have a public key and a private key. A private key is one that's kept in a computer and never shared with anybody. And a public key is one that computer passes out to other computers and says, okay, I want you to encrypt with this public one whenever you want to talk to me, and I will decrypt whatever you've encrypted with my private key. 99 times out of 100, that's the way it works. We're going to do one of the two major exceptions today. Later, when we do asymmetric keying, we're going to do encrypt with private key and decrypt with public. I'm going to show you when we get there, but our file stuff is going to be symmetric keying, use the same key, excuse me, to encrypt and decrypt a file. All right, that's the background. So let me show it and explain it as we go, because this is just cool. I know you can't see anything yet. I made a change to my system. It takes forever to find things. There we go.
And yes, Dominic, Dave's okay. Sleep deprived today, but other than that, he's okay.
All right, this is a stock Raspberry Pi. GPG is built into most Linux distros, including Raspberry Pi OS. So if you're not sure if you have it, all you have to do is something like GPG space minus minus help. If you get any results, hey, GPG is installed. Otherwise, if you did something like this, if you type in the command and it was wrong, you would just get a command not found. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is take a look at what's in this folder. It's mostly stock stuff. I've got some Python stuff in here and some other gobbledygook, but I want to do this one with you. I want to show you a folder that's not here, just to kind of prove a point, because we're going to, this process is going to create a folder automatically later. And as you look through this stuff, there is not a folder called .gpu, sorry, GNU GP. So if you're looking for it, you don't find it, take my word for it. It's because it's not there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file, sudo nano test.txt. And we'll put a line of code in there. I should have copied and pasted this, but I can type it pretty quickly. Now is the time for all good men to come. Nothing sexist there. It's just a quote. The aid of their party. And we'll save that. Control X. Yes. Enter. So if I do an ls on everything that starts with test in there, there's a test Python file that I got in there forever. And there's my test.txt. And if we want to see the contents of that file, we can cat it. Cat test.txt. Okay, simple enough. So now let's encrypt it. We'll use our friend GPG, and we're going to say -C, which means use asymmetric, not asymmetric, but asymmetric password. And then the name of the file that we're encrypting, test.txt. And it goes buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. And it says, okay, give me the asymmetric or the symmetric key that you're going to use. I'll use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the same password an idiot would use on his luggage. I know we've all done that joke on Discord lately. I'll just hit the enter key here, re-enter it just in case I bungled it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And notice a new directory was created, .gnupg, and a file was put in there, a KBX file. Well, what's happened there is this system has just created a restoration index. If I ever use GPG to decrypt this file, he says, let me look up and see if you've ever encrypted that file, and I'll use the same name, the information that's in there to decrypt it. You won't get prompted for it. So we'll go back and revisit that in a second. Let me show you what's happened here in the meantime. Let's do another ls on test. And hey, look at that. There's a new file now. When you GPG something, it leaves the original. It doesn't actually encrypt the original. And it makes a new encrypted version. Same name as the old name plus .gpg. So let's check those out. I'm going to cat the original file. There it is in all of its clarity. And now we'll cat the same file that was encrypted. And it's illegible. Not surprising. This could be a really gigantic file, and it might look about the same size as here. Now let's do this one again and take a look at the files and folders that were created. Here's the new folder that got created, .gnupg. And if I do an ls of that, that's GNU Privacy Guard, right? So there's a subfolder in there where it's going to create and store private keys if I ever do public-private keys. Here's its random seed for when it does randomizing, when it makes private and public keys. And then here is, in heavily encrypted format, information about what we just did. There was a file called test.txt, and it was encrypted with a symmetric key of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You wouldn't be able to read that in there. So that's kind of cool, but it's got a hole in it. So let's take a look at what we can do with it. If I want to decrypt this file, I use the same command, gpg, except I'm going to use -d for decrypt, and then the name of the encrypted file, test.txt.gpg. And it shows me, unfortunately, maybe it's fortunate, I guess it depends on your goals, the contents of that file. And now if this was a great big gigantic novel or program code or something like that, this would just rack up my screen. Did it create an unencrypted file for me? Well, I can't tell because that original test.txt is there. So let's get rid of it. Yes, I know, I got to sudo it. Yeah, okay, got rid of it. So I'll do that again and I'll decrypt it. gpg -d test.txt.gpg. And it's unencrypting and it's used the passphrase from my files and it shows me that. Now let's see what's in the files.
So Dave?
Hello.
What, I guess I would have expected it to prompt you for the password or the passphrase.
Right. So that's the problem with doing it on the same machine. It created that folder and it created a file with a reference. So I'm going to get rid of that because here's the cool part. Let's say that I want to send this to you, Scott, as an encrypted file. Well, you don't have that, my folder and my decryption stuff. So I'm going to have to send you my decrypt password as well. And I'm going to show you how that all works. But the first thing I want to do is one more thing. I don't want to see the text or the content of that file. Again, it might be code, it might be something illegible. I want it to save it to a file. So all we got to do is the decrypt command and then say, instead of sending the output to the screen, output to any file name I want. There is no longer a test.txt file in here, so let's make one. And it goes buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. And now when we can list all the test files, okay, there's a newly created test.txt. Remember, we got rid of the old one. And if we cat it, there it is. But Scott points out the biggest problem with this, let me get rid of that test.txt file again. And I'm going to get rid of that whole folder structure that I built here. We're going to say rm -r, oops, we've got to sudo that, .gnu gp. PG, idiot. Okay, all gone. No longer is there a .gnu file up here. So the way I'm going to treat this is Scott encrypted this. I've been playing in Microsoft land. Scott encrypted a file called test.txt with GPG, and he used the password 12345, and then he sent it to me. And he called me up make sure it's nice and secure, and said, hey, when you get this, use GPG to decrypt it. And the password that I used is 12345. Okay. So let's LS here, make sure that he sent us what we said. I don't have any of my old passwords or anything saved. It's all gone. So we simply GPG minus decrypt test.txt.gpg. There's no GNU folder for him to look into. So he says, hey, what's the passphrase? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And look, it did it to me again. He showed me the output. So if I want to take real advantage of that, I got to generate, and you can make any file name that you want here, from Scott. .text, what the heck? Okay. And somewhere, there it is, from Scott. And so if I look into it, cat from Scott, stock. Bam, whoops.
Add the TXT.
I knew that was coming. Here we go. So there's a value and a danger here. Value, I want to encrypt a file and send it to somebody, and then I'll communicate the decryption phrase with them somehow in some secure method, maybe over a secure email like a Proton mail or something like that, or phone call or whatever secure method that I have, and they can use that. The thing that I did here was, in the real world, a very stupid and dangerous thing to do. Let's say that over the last couple of months, I've been encrypting files that I want to later decrypt. Well, all that information is stored in that GNU PG folder. As soon as I wipe that out, I no longer have an automated method of recovering those. If I remember the passwords, if I use a standard stock password that's hard to guess, I can still get to them. It'll prompt me for a password, but wiping that folder out isn't a real secure thing to do. On the other hand, there is stuff that I want here. It's company corporate secrets, and I have reason to believe that my machine is at risk. That's a good time to blow away that folder. Now all of the automated records of passwords are gone. So I have, stand by, there we go. A really cool tutorial that said, this is like scratching the surface. This is a really nice, neat, and interesting thing to do. But let me send you, if you're interested in doing other kinds of decryptions and encryptions, encrypting entire folders, compressing and encrypting them, I got a place for you to go check all this stuff out. And it's right over here at devconnected.com. How to encrypt a file on Linux. Separate them by hyphens. If you're watching this in the archive, pause your screen now and go get this. If you're not watching on the archive, type in really fast because it's going off in 5 seconds, or go back and revisit it at time mark 253 or so. And they got some really, really good stuff in that article.
Cool.
I thought so. Let me do one more thing before we check questions, then we'll go back to questions. And that was answering questions from last week to which I didn't have answers.
Gotcha.
It's all one of them. Stand by, scrolling down my notes here. All right, so is Marty McFly here? Let me try this. Marty is not here, but I'm going to do this in case he watches the archive because I told him I would do this today. Let's see, let me update my screen while I'm doing that. Marty asked last week when Michael was here about my book recommendations for learning about the Pi. And I told him at the time what I will do now. I have only read 2 Pi books ever. Everything that I've learned about Pi, I either knew a little bit about Linux before I got into this game, or I have researched online from the Pi net website and zillions of other websites. But I did order and read 2 books. One of them that most people here would have absolutely no interest in. It's learning about computer architectures using the Raspberry Pi as the model. Dr. Evan Upton used standard computing architecture when he designed this, and he wrote that book. So it seemed kind of appropriate to read that. I got a pretty decent understanding of the architecture, but I just wanted that Pi and Dr. Upton perspective on it. The other one, he has written several books that have been updated and co-authored a Raspberry Pi user guide. That's the actual title of it. He and a gent named Gareth Halfacre or Halfacre, if you want to give the non-British pronunciation. It was last updated in 2016. You can find them both on Amazon. The architecture book is on sale this week. It's $19. And his how-to is on sale. Now it's regular price at $25. So what I wanted, go ahead.
I posted links to both of them.
Very good. Thank you, sir. So what I wanted to ask Marty in order to answer his questions is, what does he want to know? This is like so many other questions that we get. It's very broad-based question. His specific question was, any books you can recommend in getting started with Raspberry Pis? And so what do you want to do with your Raspberry Pi? Do you want to learn code? Do you want to do software projects like making web servers and Pi holes and network monitoring utilities? Do you want to do hardware projects? Do you want to learn circuitry, adding sensors, lights, control relays, make robots? Do you just want to learn about the Pi? What is this box? What do people do with it? What are these components on it? So there's different piles of books. Do a search on Raspberry Pi books and pick one of those specialties, and you'll find 200 books that were written on that. And I haven't read any of them. What I do, I think, is a fair warning that if you do any kind of search like that and you run across a website that says the 20 best Raspberry Pi books of 2020, from what I researched this week, there is no valid rating system on most of those things. Those are folks who have built lists and they're making money off of your click-throughs on those lists or even the sales of those books. So they're not a worthless thing to do. Look through them, find the titles, then go research the titles and see if that's got what you want. But just because somebody says the 20 best mixing bowls of 2019 doesn't mean they were the 20 best mixing bowls.
Yeah, the 20 best for that person.
Yeah, exactly.
When you click on them.
All right, I think that gets through everything up into this week's project. So let's go look at questions.
So the first question, one, you were right and I was wrong. Miasmatic is actually a word.
I made it up, so for the win.
Yeah. So I looked it up and right as I was posting the definition, Elbow called me out on it. It's like, yes, it. And I'm like,
nice.
Smelling vapor arising from rotting organic matter, formerly thought to cause disease. Miasmatic. So there is a question from Elbow at 2:28, but we can save that one because he's off at lunch. Might as well come back to it.
That sounds good. Let me put that in the questions to be answered.
Yep.
List. Go ahead, keep going while I go update my full file.
You bet. So at 2:31, Edward Banks asks, or says, oh, he didn't ask anything. He says, hey guys, I'm studying for CompTIA A+ and in the IT field as a volunteer. Awesome.
Definitely.
Want to thank you for your videos. They've been incredibly helpful. Merry Christmas. You're welcome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What's the time mark on that one so I can catch up with you?
That was at 2:31.
Okay, yep, there it is.
So more Gloria Estefan jokes. Thank you. Oh, and then Michael jumped in, so people stopped asking questions there.
Oh, okay.
And they talked about omelets. I don't know.
That's not a foodie.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not a foodie. That is for sure. Sadly,
a whiny or a whiner.
A whiner. But only cat piss wine, you know. For the win.
Topping off my Christmas list. 233, Kevin Lopez. Maybe he can make a virtual debit card that he can cancel or limit charges. A virtual credit card. I think you just invented a new form of fraud.
Right. So the next question I see is quite a ways down.
Okay.
And it's
wait, Deepak's here. I got to say hi to Deepak. Deepak Poon, just so we can all pronounce it correctly.
That's right. Tulawit at 246 asked, And he was specifically referencing your Linux screen, so you might want to pop that back up as you answer.
I'll do this.
Is there a legend for the colors the terminal uses for things and what they are?
Yes.
So, yeah,
But
I meant to interrupt you, and then we got interrupted, and so sorry.
we're good.
Yep.
Okay, so the answer is yes. And the problem is that color code is buried deep into a folder.
Are you trying to share them? Share it?
I'm about to.
About to, okay.
I was looking in here. I'm not going to find this, but I'm going to show you the effort and at least give you a place to try it, because I want to show you two things about it. So let's do this, and then this. So all of the Linux terminals these days are smart, and they adjust their color schemes according to a map that they have buried deep in a folder. And that map says, okay, if you're doing a bash terminal shell, here's what they mean. And blue things mean files, and green things mean scripts. And I'm sorry, blue things are folders, green things are scripts, white things are files that don't have any particular association into this. Now, if I bring up within this thing a Python editor, it's going to change around the whole game. The colors are going to mean something different. And again, it's all buried down in maybe .profile. I'm going to just take one quick look and then I'm going to give it up. And we went through this one time. That's a file, you idiot. It's not PKI, it's not VNC. It's got to be local. Oh no, it's config. All right, so you can see this Thani file of this Thani down here. When you're using the Thani editor, there's color code mappings in there. There's one for GIMP, and it all gets pretty convoluted as you get deeper and deeper into this. Probably LX terminal is where we're working here. So about a month and a half ago, we ran into an exercise where I had to go in and fix this on the Kali machine because there was a change that cat LX terminal. Trying to talk and type at the same time, it doesn't work.
Right.
All right, so there's the different palette colors for various different features, and it's in there. The usual way, of course, is to clear CD, go into edit, preferences, and you can modify colors and things like that you like to a degree.
Cool. There's lots of tutorials for customizing your color scheme in various terminals. A quick web search will find all those. So, I mean, the key here is that it changes according to which program you have open, and that's interesting. So
it really is. There's so much smartness built into the background. The problem is they don't make it easy to manipulate for yourself. You've got to go dig into configuration files.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, Deepak asked, shouldn't it ask for a password when decrypting? Right as I was speaking. The same question. So again, twinsies forever, man.
Hope you got your answer, Deepak. If you didn't, let me know, and we'll recover that.
Yep.
Parties, way to go, Tulowit. 5, 6, 7 times. No, somebody won with Scott. Didn't you do a password of 4, 5, 6, 7 or 5, 6, 7, 8?
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah,
That's fun. Nailed it, dead on.
Nailed it.
Am I thinking that was Deepak who nailed it?
It was.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I got a memory still. Everything I need to know about Pi, I learned in kindergarten. Nah, you learned from me. Though I am often accused of being a kindergartner. Hey, Luke, good to see you, man. If I'm using a laptop, this is a 258, No
Yep.
keyboard monitor is the best way to access my Pi through SSH. If I am using a laptop and you don't have a keyboard or monitor connected to your Pi, absolutely, either through SSH or through VNC. Just enable the VNC interface in preferences on the Raspberry Pi and then download the VNC Windows client for your laptop. And then you can do what I do here on the screen. You can see it in real-time graphical all the time. It's good stuff. Deepak, I was saying I'm late. That's okay. We don't take attendance. So you can turn up anytime you want. Which evil twin? The one with the slick back hair.
Right. I'll fluff it out at the end of the stream so you can see just how insanely long.
SSH is a quiet way to
Elbow
get.
just got back, so we might as well answer his question from 228.
Okay.
Quick question. This is Elbow. Welcome back, by the way. If you mount an ISO using Windows 10, will it still be mounted on restart?
How did you mount it? If you mount an ISO in what, where, with in a virtual machine as a standalone ISO so that it looks and acts like a CD that's parked in your machine. So I'm not clear on how to answer that. Are you getting some vibe out of this that I'm not, that makes the question more clear?
Elbow addressed it. Double-clicking the ISO file mounts it as a DVD drive.
So it depends on your operating systems and the settings of the utility that you're using to mount it. There may be a permanent setting, or it goes down when you shut down and reboot the machine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's so funny. I don't think I've ever done that.
No, I've always mounted with a third-party utility called alcohol.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I will definitely play with that.
Yeah,
Yep,
we'll look into that. Bring that up again on Discord, and we'll talk about it. We'll have it researched by then. Tullowit embarrasses himself by saying SSH is a quiet way to get there at 3:05. Horrified for you, Tullowit, sometimes. Pi isn't set up yet. Noobs is on my SD. Yeah, right. You're still looking for a power supply, which will come in soon. ISO stay mounted. Somebody's saying an answer. It looks like Tullowit ISO stay mounted Win 10 as a folder like a CD or DVD. Yeah.
I guess I get Elbow. The big question is reboot and see if Tullowit's right.
Yeah.
You know, not like it can hurt anything.
Right. And that's why I'm asking. I've always used Daemon Tools Lights, but accidentally clicked an ISO before and noticed it mounted. Just curious. Yeah, we're curious too. Neither Scott nor I have done it. Tullowit. Hey, let's talk about SSH then. Another tool to go headless.
For the win, yeah.
And I will share with you, with some reluctance and trepidation, because I'm trepidatious about it. That one's not a word.
That is totally not a word.
But if I was, I'd be the trepidatious. This is the core tutorial that I started from. Again, I got serious reservations about it. You cannot follow this thing step by step. It has two problems with it in my mind. One of them, as two parts, it's related. They use terms up here in the tutorial that they finally get around to explaining down here. And so how do I do that? How can I do this step until, okay, now, and then I go back. And sometimes they use terms that they never explain. For instance, they use the term, now do this on the remote computer. They use that several times in a place where it just doesn't make sense. I don't know what in the world they're talking about. And in the end, the other problem manifested itself. And that is, this is written like a first-time programmer would write a program who's smart, but not organized. So we're doing things one way in this section of the tutorial. And then, oh, now if you want to do it this way in a completely unrelated thing, then we do it here. But back here to the way we were doing it before. And that happens multiple times throughout. I had to go through this thing so many times and sort of turn it into a programming language that says, call this step 1. And at this point, go to step 2. And then I'd go and identify a step 2. And I sort of created my own flow out of this thing. Brr. But all the pieces are there. And if you want to go and follow along at that site, by all means, please do. I'll tell you where I'm going next and what I'm doing next. And that should make life a little bit easy. All righty. So what's the best way to do this? The way we've been always doing it. Let's first of all check the text before I get a hit on. So we looked at GPG a little bit ago to encrypt and decrypt files, and we used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to encrypt them. We used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to decrypt them. So symmetric encryption, same to encrypt as decrypt. What we're doing today is we're going to use keys, an asymmetric set of keys, to establish an SSH connection between an SSH client, a Windows machine when I get there, to an SSH server, a Raspberry Pi. Things that you have to do in advance, I've already showed you. You've got to go turn on the SSH server interface on the Raspberry Pi. You can do that anytime. We usually do that right after the installation. And let me remind you that if you do that and you don't change the default password, remember the default account is Pi and the default password is Raspberry. Every time you boot up your Pi, you'll get a big warning. Hey, you're using SSH and it's got the default password for Pi. You sure you want to do that? You should change it. And if this were a real world tool that I would expose to the world, I certainly would. But because of the things that I show you all the time and you're frequently doing fresh installs, easier to keep them at the defaults. Now, SSH is already secure and now it's secure. It means it already does encryption and it does, well, it depends. It may or may not do symmetric or asymmetric encryption, but it does some kind of encryption. And it does that almost from the very beginning. When you establish an SSH connection between a client and a server, they stop at the very beginning and in clear text talks to each other. And one says, here's the list of encryption protocols that I can support. And the other one says, okay, here's the list of protocols that I can support. And then they pick the one best one that they both support. They agree on that, and then they switch to it. And the next thing that happens is the login prompt, which we couldn't see if we Wireshark captured it because that's encrypted. Here's the solution that we're presenting, or more accurately, here's the problem that we try to present. When we do that, by default, the login prompt comes up and says, what's your login name? Pi. And then here's what we're fixing. What's Pi's password? Raspberry. So what we want to do is fix that prompt. We're going to set up a set of asymmetric keys that will check that against each other and say, yeah, you got the right key stuff. So I'm not going to prompt you for your password. As soon as you said Pi and the fact that you're using the right keys, I'm going to let you in. So that's the whole goal of this thing, using keys to authenticate a login on an SSH session. So let me show you how that works.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
I see it.
And knowing this, when you see this share, which I may bring up within the next week or so, share, click. This is what I needed to make all their gobbledygook work. So we're going to start out with some computer. I'm going to do it in this case with my Windows machine and generate a key pair. There's all kinds of programs to do that. And there's one that's built in with the PuTTY terminal session utility. And the goal is for us to keep a copy of the private key on the PuTTY machine and to put a copy of the public key on the SSH server. Once we've done that, now we're ready to use it. And what happens is I want to establish an SSH session with my Raspberry Pi. So I fire up PuTTY on my Windows computer. And he initiates an SSH connection. And okay, we get the game. You want to play SSH? We'll negotiate the other stuff down road. But what I'm going to do, says the server, is I'm going to generate a random message. And I'm going to send it in the relative clear. It's going to be within the asymmetric session that's already been established. But I'll send you just a message. And I want you to use, Mr. Putty Machine, your private key to encrypt that. And that's rare, right? We don't use private keys to encrypt things. In fact, the only two examples that are common that I know of are this and when we do a certificate and signature. Otherwise, most things use a private key to encrypt and a public to decrypt. But this guy says, I'm going to send you a plain message that wasn't encrypted with these public and private keys that we genned here. And then, okay, the privacy says, I got your message, the Putty Machine. I will encrypt it with private, and then I will send it back to you as encrypted. And then the Putty SSH server, not Putty, the SSH server will decrypt it with his public key. And if it matches the message that he sent here, he says, okay, you must have the right key. I wouldn't have been able to decrypt it and come up with a match if he didn't. And so he says, you're authenticated. I won't prompt you for an account password. That's the game. It's really simple when you get down to it. Generate a key pair, send the public key over to the SSH server. You got to put it in the right place and the right file, and that's what we're going to go through today. And then just use it and say, we're going to play key authentication. And it's pretty cool.
Okay, that seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So what I want to do first is I'm going to do an SSH session. I'm going to fire up Putty here just to demonstrate a normal non-key based one. Let me fire up Putty. I know you can't see it. That's all right. If I don't say that.
I know. I would ask. That's what I'm here for.
Sure. All right. I'll watch. I'll bring it to this screen. It'll break connection as I do this, and then I'll bring up any other screen. Stick with me for a second. Okay, so I ran Putty exec, and I came up with this screen. So I put in the IP address of my Pi, 192.168, I think it's 120. We're doing SSH. It's port 22. So all we got to do is hit open. And he goes buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. Screen sharing is stopped. That's okay. Let me take you over now to where it took me.
I thought it would be too warm wearing the sweater. The door to my study.
Wearing a couple of different things just to make sure I could take this off. Okay, so I get this warning that says host key is not cached. I'm going to say, no, I don't want to do it now so I can do something later. So now I got my login prompt. This is encrypted. You couldn't Wireshark catch this thing. Login is Pi. He prompts me for the password because we haven't started this keys nonsense yet. And like many Linux utilities, when I start typing, the cursor won't move. R-A-S, I screwed it up already. R-A-S-P-B-E-R-R-Y. Okay, and we're in, SSH disabled, and very good. All right, I'm done with that, exit. Screen sharing has stopped. Okay, so step number one, if you're gonna do this, you want a copy of Putty.
Where can they find a copy of Putty?
Where can you find it is a heck of a question. So I was playing with this week, and everything was working fine. And then it dawned on me that there was something missing that I used to see all the time. And my guess is just, it was still there. And the system, kind of forgot about it, didn't prompt me for it. So when I type in Putty into the search box, I would always see Putty, the program, and Putty Gen, the program that we're going to use today. And rather than go look for it, I went to download a fresh download of Putty because there's 47,000 sites that have a downloadable copy of Putty that aren't the original site. And so I wouldn't trust any of them. So I wanted to make sure I could give you the correct site. And second of all, I wanted to see if I was out of date. Man, was I out of date. I was running 0.67. They're on Rev 0.74. They do a .01 rev not very frequently. So my putty was pretty darn old.
Wow.
And by the way, if you use Mike's Cool Tools, that's where I got my copy from most recently. So update it. All right, let me share this. So this is where to get a current copy of putty, and you'll get everything that you need with this. Go to chark.greenend.org.uk, or just do a search on download putty and make sure you pick this site. That's the easiest way to go. And download it and install it. It's all automatic. There's nothing you got to do. There's no special questions that you have to answer. It just installs. Sweet. All right, let me refer to notes. Equipment required. What do you need to do for this nonsense? A Raspberry Pi. Every model works with this. Set up to run an SSH server. Initially, you may need a keyboard, mouse, and monitor so you can enable the SSH interface. I talked a little bit about how to do that without. Download the current version of putty. This week, the current version is 0.74. And if you're doing this, you can follow along with real time. There is nothing that's very time consuming in here. All right, the process: download, install putty, get it from Shark. Click download link, run it like any other thing. Enable your SSH server, which you needed to do either by setting up that SSH code back when it was an image file or with a keyboard mouse. But then after that, you can disconnect all this. While you're at it, while you're working on the Pi, before you disconnect it and make it headless, make sure you note its IP address. Run IP space ADDR, or if it's too late, I've unplugged everything, I don't want to unplug it all back in because it's plugged into my main computer. Run a utility like Angry IP Scanner or Advanced IP Scanner or Nmap. Hey, we did Nmap a couple of weeks ago. That's useful now, man.
Right.
Somebody copied me. There's a news website that I read, I don't know, about 18 times a day. And somebody did useful Nmap commands. And I mean, it's stolen wholesale from our presentation.
Wow. Okay.
On their own, but, hey, fine.
That's cool.
I care about teaching people. I don't care if you copy my learning.
Best form of flattery, right?
Exactly. All right. We did a putty connection. We showed normal. So that's all easy and done. All right. So we are now at step 1 of the tutorial. Having downloaded, yep, step 1. Having downloaded the putty program, not surprisingly, a whole bunch of support files and things like that came with it, but there's a program that came with it called PuttyGen. And I haven't tried to do this as a share, so I'm going to bring it up and see what I can show you. Oh man, this is so freaking.
Do it on the fly, Dave.
Come on. It never happens here, does it? Okay, I think this is going to go very well.
Okay.
Share that. Share that. Yeah, I know this part's going to work. No panic. But there's a really cool exercise in here. All right, so this is PuttyGen. And when we do with it, what we're going to do, it knows, it doesn't know. Let's start with this thing. So the step number 1, and this is what the instructions get so confusing here. I'm just going to do it in the way it should be done. And then when you read the directions, you'll see what they're talking about and why it can be so confusing. We start by generating. Now notice, I'm just going to leave my mouse there. It's stuck. The first time I ran this, it was, I got to move my mouse a little differently here. Oh, you scum. It's moving. It got stuck here. And it just stayed there. And I went and I started researching, why is it stuck? And I quit and I tried it 10 other times. Well, here's what's going on. It's got a randomizer built in it. And there's a second level randomizer that if you see this blank space underneath where the green bar is, you got to move your mouse around in there. Don't hold down any of the buttons, just move it. And every gazillionth of a second, it takes a coordinate where the mouse is, and it builds that in to the random seeder. So watch this. As long as I'm moving this thing around, that's a whole bunch of randomness built into what it's created here. Now, what it's created here is a public key. And we're going to save that public key. Oh, by the way, I didn't set up these values. These are the strongest to weakest keys that could be generated. So the default was this RSA key that's 2048 bits long. It's a nice, big, powerful key. Now, I'm going to highlight everything in here. Notice that this SSH RSA doesn't highlight, doesn't have to, it's okay. Oh, there's the cruddy part. You actually have to manually fire up everything, copy everything in this area. So I'm going to Control C this. I think it may not matter. I think I need to do this again later. Okay, key fingerprint, nothing to change in here. That's something that's going to get put into this computer. Key comment, this is where you name the key set, and it's going to be important to do. So I'm going to call this my Pi SSH key set. Call it anything you want, something you're going to remember. These two boxes are second level passwords. If you fill in a value here, you will be prompted for a password, and whatever that password is, it comes from here. It has nothing to do with the account password. This is a second level of security when you use SSH keys. In the real world, you absolutely should do this. Since I'm doing this all from computers in my home, I don't want to do this. I'm trying to avoid passwords so that I can get an easy authentication, but this is a second level of password security. So nothing going in there today. I'm going to save the public key. And you can save this anywhere you want. If you try and save it here in the PuTTY program files folder, if you didn't launch the PuTTYgen program in admin mode, you won't have permission to do that in here. So I'm just going to go save it in my personal home folder. Yeah. See how much information on my personal system I can give away here. All right, Pi SSH public key, public dash key, and it will save it without an extension unless you provide one. I'm trying to remember the name. You can't see this. Sorry, that window's not lighting up for you. I'm going to save without an extension so you can see this later and see what happens. And then I'm going to do the same thing, save private key. You sure you want to save this key without a passphrase? Yes, I do. But thanks for the warning. And I'll call it the same thing, pi-ssh-public private dash key. And I'm going to make it easier to remember. This time I'm going to put the expected extension on here, .ppk. Save it. Okay. Later on, I got to go put the PPK extension on there. All right. We are done on this side of the computer. We've created public keys and private keys. We've saved them. They've been randomized before that. We used a good type of key, a secure type of key. So cool. The next part of the job happens over on the Pi. So let me wake up a Pi.
So we're on to step 3.
I'm going to give you the step number. I'm doing this from memory. I'll go pull the step here in a second.
I was anticipating, Dave.
I appreciate it. RASPBERRY. All right, over to notes. All right, so we did steps 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. Yeah, 4, and step 5 should have finished it off. And then they go back up. Oh, here's the stuff we were talking about in the previous box. Here's what you do in sub-step 4 and sub-step 1 and 2. And then I have my notes here. Keep PuTTYgen running to copy the public key later. All right. Next, we don't go to the next section that starts with a number 1, generating SSH keys on a Linux system. So we're going to bypass all that. Bypass step 4, 5, 6. Bypass the next header that says copying the public key using SSH tools. Rolling, rolling, rolling. We are going to the section that starts with copying the public keys manually. So it reads step one, back on the Raspberry Pi, we need to utilize a few commands. All right. So the first command that we're going to use is listed at the bottom of step one, the text just before step two. Copy paste this to the share. I'll show you that in a sec. Okay, save that. I got a Pi going. We got to share this. Yeah, I'm not sharing with you. Okay, so here's my Raspberry Pi. Open up a terminal session. And by the way, you could use SSH to do all this initial setup. I just think this is pretty, so I'm going to show it to you this way. So the install command is a Linux command that means create a directory. Normally we would use the makedir, MKDIR, but this has a whole bunch of cool features built into it that allows you to save some other command steps. For instance, this -m, this is a built-in chmod command where we're going to set the mod mode of this directory to 700. And we're installing a directory and blah, blah. So you don't have to know what it all means. Do know that it's going to make it under my home folder. So here we go. Hit the big enter key and no error messages. That's the way Linux works, right? So it's done. If I do an ls -a, we should see a .ss folder right there. Sweet. We've created a folder, which is going to be a place to store our public key. Let's get all that right. Moving back to my notes. Step number 2. Man, lots of activity here. With the folders created, let's make and put our public key in the authorized keys file. So we're going to start by putting a file in that folder. With sudo nano in the folder. Something's bothering me there, but okay. I typoed something. Stand by, it's an SSH. Let's get rid of that. Sudo rm.ss. Oops, I'm missing the -r here. Right, let's go see the typo that I did, because that was fun. .ssh. Oh, I see what happened. When I did my copy and paste, I didn't copy all the way over to the H. There we go. Okay, now I can create my authorized keys file in that folder. And what I'm going to do is you're not going to see this because it's not worth changing over, but I'm going back and I'm recopying the contents of that public key box where the public key got generated. You'll see it all in here and you'll hate it for this reason. This is all a one-liner. So all of that 2048 characters is all on one line. So now we save this. Control X, yes, enter. So the SSH utility on here, the SSH server, knows it has been updated with one of the other commands to find this .ssh folder and find keys in there. We're almost done. Step 3, in this file, copy paste the contents of the SSH key. We did that. Once you have your public SSH keys, save and quit. We did that. File now saved. Got to make sure we got the right permissions. So, okay, 2 commands to give that file appropriate permissions. Let's make sure I don't typo this. Okay, authorized keys. So we're going to chmod it to 644. And one more. We're going to change the owner to Pi, which we shouldn't have to because this is down under Pi's home folder, but just for safe. Okay. User Pi, group Pi is now owned, or are now the owners of this authorized keys file. Now, we're going to jump away from here after step 6. We're going to go to the next section that says connecting to your Raspberry Pi using a private key with PuTTY. So we got to go bypass this connecting using your private key on Linux. And I got it up on mine, connecting to your Raspberry Pi using private key with PuTTY. So let me close out this share and bring up the PuTTY share again. Because we're done. All the steps are complete. Now all we got to do is use it. So let me fire up PuTTY and share it with you. See, I can get rid of this PuTTY gen now. Close, run PuTTY. Okay. PuTTY gen, how are we doing on time here? 35. Cool, we'll be done in about 2 minutes. Oops, I ran PuTTY gen. PuTTY. There we go. And let me share that with you. It's going to break the connection with you at some point, but not. Oh, I haven't done one other thing yet too. Let me show you that. Share this. Share this. I'm going to go into a file share window that I'm not going to show you, and I'm going to rename the file that I saved without an extension and give it an extension. And you'll see why in this next step. So stand by, reading questions, not quite. Windows, users, Dave, Pi. There we are. Change this and give it a new extension. .ppk. All right. So here we go. Back to PuTTY, which you should be able to see. All right. So what we're going to do now to use it, according to those instructions, oops, you open up the SSH folder here and you click on auth and you browse. You can save this as a profile, but browse for where you saved the private key. So we'll go digging around and find Dave's home folder again. And because I've given them the extension PPK, they are the only actual files that turn up in here. If I'd left either of these without a PPK extension, they wouldn't turn up in the list. So we use the private key on this side, right? We got the public key copied over to the right place on the other side, gave it permissions. And it works like a dream, except it goes bring when I hit open. Did I name it wrong? Did I name the private the public and the public the private? Let's find out. So that's how it works. It's brilliant. It's perfect. I'm not going to troubleshoot this right now. I'm going to fix it as we answer questions and find out what typo I did. But I've done this a million times this week. There's some simple basic typo that I made. Let me look real quick and see if I missed instructions. Auth SSH browse, bring in the private and open. That's everything that's there. I missed something simple. Sorry about that, guys. Man, that's like the third time in 21 weeks I've done this. But what would have happened is he would have prompted you for the account name, Pi, and then you wouldn't see anything happen. It would just say, you're logged in.
Will you post the link to the website where you have the SSH instructions, please?
Yeah, my base one, sure. Let me put that on the back channel so you can put it up with an HTTPS.
Okay, sounds good. And apparently Zach Morrill just showed up, and apparently we are on the big round of applause for his.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, congratulations, Zach.
Technician, awesome.
Put it online. Staff connected. There it is. Okay. Okay, going to the back channel. Stand by. It's right here. Please display. Okay, that's probably what you posted there, huh?
Yeah, it's exactly. I mean, like 3 times. You weren't paying attention, so it's all right.
Okay. Man, I feel like Mike, except different. I am tearing my heart out to go troubleshoot this, but I'm not going to. That's the steps. There's something simple that got missed, a typo, something like that. But you can follow that. And this lab and the post we put out that Scott just posted, and it's there. It works. I've done this a dozen times this week. It's performance pressure, performance anxiety. So what do we got? We got 40. We got 20 minutes to go. What do you got first in here, Scott?
I don't see a lot of questions, actually.
Oh, excellent.
People are chatting amongst themselves, talking about Telowit's move to Antarctica in the witness protection program, of course.
Yeah, well, when you're in Hawaii, it's such a short trip down to Antarctica. There's nothing in the way between you and the shelf there.
Yeah, and it's, it's also the lack of polar bears. I don't know.
Yeah, but the penguins will just tear your toes off.
That's it right there.
Yeah, there isn't a Diffie Hellman exchange in this one. Too bad. All right, I'm going to glance through a couple of these questions and see what's fun and funny.
Okay, sounds good.
Reading question.
Elbow, during the midst of the discussion, he rebooted.
Okay.
And just to see whether or not his, whether the ISO would remain mounted. And unlike with Telowit's system, where it stayed mounted, Elbow's did not. So we have a software issue.
Yep.
That's
what I would have expected, but I'll bet there's a setting. I just know in my heart there's a setting. The question is whether or not it's easy to get to. Can you right click on the folder and go into properties and adjust it?
Right.
Or is it a registry entry? But it's there.
Yep.
Yeah, I see it. Mine does, yours doesn't. Error mount. Okay. That's a good experiment, though. Well done.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's from the tutorial I was using, and that got messy. When you try to do Linux to Linux SSH, his tutorial takes care of that nonsense. But again, it's just not done in a well-organized fashion. Okay. Oh, Discord. Let's put the Discord channel up. Talk about it.
Yeah. So we, our buddy Jose Braden, has set up a Discord channel that a lot of us will go to after the live streams just to chat and say hi. And so you can actually talk back to us, which is fun. And it is unofficial.
And we have two different versions. Scott's got one that's an older one. I've got one that Jose posted to me. Here, I'll put this on the back channel, Scott.
Okay.
And I have tested this one. I know that it works. I've also tested the other one. I've got reports of failures from other people, and it failed for me. So I think the one
interesting
up and that Scott's about to post,
because that
certainly works. I think the other one may have expired.
It expires every day. It's a 24-hour thing and changes.
Well, this will change too then. We'll have to work out a technique. Okay, so every time before we do a drama or an AMA, we'll have to get something official either from Jose or some other method.
Right.
Well, that doesn't make me happy.
I'll post both of them because, why not?
Yeah, I'm going to update. Fill Michael in. He may be misinterpreting what we're putting there. All right, I'm going to refresh my YouTube page because it's doing its thing. And I'm going to go down to the bottom of the question. So if anybody posted a question that didn't get answered, I'm not going to go hunt and I'm going to go through read through the zillions of things. I'm just going down to fresh content. So if you missed, if a question got missed, post it again, please, and we'll find it right away.
Absolutely. And so the first one that came in just now from Deepak, 344, does M2 in a laptop work on a PC desktop motherboard? M2 in my MacBook Pro, to be specific.
Wow. Okay. So you got two pieces there. First of all, let's talk technology. M2 drives work in any computer that's got an appropriate M2 slot.
Right.
So and by the way, document that I've been working on lately, Scott, talks about them. And one of the two, it actually gets some new categories. There's a pair of subcategories. So holy hand, we're going to have to add some information to various sources. But let's go with M2 has NVMe and SATA interfaces. And
Right.
they're a little different than each other. They don't work in each other's slots. But the slots are almost the same. They just have a different key position so that you can lock them in.
Right.
Now, let's say you've got an M2 drive in your Mac machine, and you have an appropriate M2 slot in your Intel machine. The next question is hard drive formatting, SSD formatting. It's all the same. So if you've got a Linux partition on there, it's not going to work. It's going to get electronically recognized, but Windows says, I don't know how to play with ext4 or ext3 partitions.
Right.
But if you're talking about you zeroed it out, you unpartitioned it, you put an NTFS partition on there, or a FAT32 or a FAT64, and you now transfer it over to your Wintel machine, yeah, it's going to work. You're going to have to import it. It'll turn up foreign. You've got to go into disk management utility and initialize it so it's no longer foreign, but it'll work. But hardware wise, sure. Swap in, swap out. You buy that?
I do. So the Elbow posted a comment, /question, about crazy case builds.
Okay.
And I stuck the link up there for the snowblind case from iBuyPower.com. It looks really epic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see the link that you posted. I see his question.
345. Really? My link didn't show up?
It may be because I'm showing I'm showing top chat, not live chat. Let me check that.
Interesting. Yeah,
No,
because
I don't see the link either. None of us see the link. You remember, you got to hit the enter key or.
And Tolowit's not seeing. Okay, so you guys aren't seeing my links at all.
Try and throw it up without https://
Interesting. Okay. Well,
You've been deprecated.
I've been deprecated. I'm no longer a mod, man.
Or you could share your screen and show the epic screen yourself. You're set to share.
Except I have it open on my other computer, not on the computer that I'm actually.
You need a fourth monitor.
Right. I'm just sad. Like none of these things are showing.
Yeah, we both had a misfire today then. Michael has probably done something to your account. 200 limit. Now, well, you see the first 200 characters then. All right, so I'm reading past 344. Those were the descriptions I was trying to give, but YouTube won't let me type more than 200 characters. Yeah. It's one of those things that, you wish you had more, but then if you did, people would abuse it and you'd hate reading through miles and miles. So it's probably a fair compromise. All right, we all get the idea. Nobody can see it.
Yeah, nobody can see my stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that just stinks. I posted all kinds of great stuff today.
Yeah, he's a monitor.
Oh, well.
Okay, well, worst case, how would you find this manually? I don't know how to search Discords.
So none of the
go to discord.com and search for the unofficial total seminars. That ought to be enough to get you to find it. Yeah. Wait, I got to invite people here. Do I have to invite them by name? No, here's today's. Okay, I'm going to post today's invite. I didn't know we could get this from here.
Yeah, try it. See if yours shows up.
Yeah, I don't think it'll show up with the HTTPS, but I'll try it both ways. There's method number 1. I can see my own post there.
Yeah, I can't see yours.
Okay, and I'll take it off the HTTPS. Whack, whack. All right, so I got a post at 349 and another post at 349. They both have the link in it. One has HTTPS in it.
Got nothing.
I just don't rate. Anybody else see it?
No.
Okay. I see. So Tullowit has done the backdoor method.
Right. Weird. We'll have to check the YouTube settings.
All right, discord.gg whack what I'm about to put in. It's case sensitive. Discord.gg whack this stuff. This is just a string of letters. You got to be able to see this. So if you can't see that, I've been aced out myself.
I do not see your post, Dave.
Man. Well, change from top chat to live chat or back. Don't say whack, it triggers witness protection. Yeah, that's why we can't conduct CIDR classes anymore.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk about a couple of other quickie things then. We got about 9 or 10 minutes. The future, namely the future of drama. There is a future for drama, and it's not this year. So I'm not going to do a presentation on Christmas Day, the 25th, which is Friday. So sorry, I'll be thinking about you all, and I will probably still be sitting in front of this computer working because that's what I do. January 1st, New Year's Day. I haven't checked with anybody of this. I made a unilateral decision. I'm going to be on. There's one person I need to check with, and that's Michael, to turn on the stream and to turn it off. But I'm not going to do a presentation. I'm going to turn up. If anybody wants to turn up and talk about anything or ask me to demonstrate anything, it's just going to be wide open. It's the one thing that Mike gets to do regularly. I have never gotten to do a presentation where it's just open forum. I always have some kind of presentation to screw up, like passing SSH keys wrongly. But most of the things work pretty well. So this one, I just want to do one where I can talk to you. I can go stream of consciousness. Hey, here's something I just thought of that'll be really cool to show you, kind of thing. So if you turn up on New Year's Day, great. We'll hang around until everybody gets bored. If nobody turns up, I'll shut it down within minutes after I wake it up. But hope you're going to be around. Hope you're not too hungover, and we can talk and shoot the breeze and have a little fun here. And I'll make a nice, fun banner. Michael is actually our banner designer, but I got some ideas for it, and it'll be fun and interesting. I'll call Scott and say, look, it's New Year's Day.
Sure.
You got nothing better to do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and show the snowblind case.
Excellent.
So I can share too.
Yes.
So here's the snowblind.
Oh gosh, that is cool.
Right?
Yep. Here, stand by. I just dropped something. Be right back.
Okay, no worries.
You got
It's a case with a screen on it. Here's a side view. Looks pretty epic, I must say. Better than my current case, that's for sure. Useless lights. That's exactly right. That's what they're for. Tempered glass LCD side panel. So there you have it. Dave's chair is missing. Oh my gosh. He's been captured by aliens or Christmas elves or something. I don't know. So yeah, I would like to buy that case, and that might be the new upgrade. That should be fun. We can do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Hey, you know what? Let's show them the case. Here, you keep going. I'm going to bring up a case.
Okay, sounds good.
Now I'm lying. What's the name of that case that we put in the TTS kits? Yeah. It's one of those things that when you say it,
I don't know.
all right, I'll find it in.
Okay, you can find it. In the meantime, yeah, so coming up on live streams, Mike is going to do an AMA on Monday. No special guest as far as I know. I think it's just a straight up AMA and discussing IPv6. So that should be a fun one.
6. I'm excited.
Yeah. So that's Monday, 2 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that should be a lot of fun. Definitely check out his previous IPv6 AMA just to get a little extra background. I'd post the link, but apparently I can't post links today. So if you just go to the Total Seminars channel, you can do a search for IPv6. I think it was back in June.
I can bring that up in
ran through that.
No time flat.
Okay, cool. Dave will bring that up while we're going for it. And then our live streams are done until the new year. Sad. But, there you go. Even we have to take breaks. So it's all good to hang out with the family. I'm hosting a Zoom call, of course, since I can't be with anybody. But we can wave and wear funny hats and wear our crazy, epic, ugly Christmas sweaters because, we can. And then we should. So,
All right. The date was June 15th of 20. And I'm not giving you the times. I don't have the URL for it. I could go dig that. But if you just look through all of our things, they're listed in chronological order. And the core title of it is Mike talks about IPv6 to the A+ and Network Plus level. So it was a good presentation. It's everything you needed to know about IPv6 in order to prep for this class. This new one that he's doing is everything that you need to know to use and take advantage of IPv6 in the real world. And that's much more interesting to my eyes, but it'd be a really good review. It's not long. In fact, it starts at 58 and it goes for 40 minutes. So, and Mike, he stops in the middle of it and asks questions, answers questions and things like that. So,
and if you want just a quick overview of IPv6 and how the basics of how it works, you can also do a search on the Total Seminars channel for IPv6 on the beach with my name. It's a little over the top, but
it has one of the funniest metaphors in there that anybody at Total Seminars has ever written. It was written by a friend of ours and guy who used to work with us named Ford. And he is just brilliant and hilarious. And I'll give you a hint. It involves hypoglycemic bikers.
Yeah, it just
epic by definition. Well, I'm finding pictures of this thing that people have modified, but not the actual unit. So we have this really cool case that we send to schools with kits that's got a platform. It's open. It's got 4 posts and an upper platform, and then 2 more posts that stick up with a crossbar. And you mount your motherboard on the top platform, and that crossbar is a place for you to lock in your expansion cards. Down on the bottom, underneath the top of the platform, there's slide rails for sliding in hard drives. And then on the bottom, you stick a power supply and a fan. They're not expensive. They're really cool. They're wide open, and they're just great. They're not pretty. They don't come with LEDs and any of that, but practical, lightweight, and fun. And somebody who can do really fast research will come up with these ultra fast. Oh, what have we got here? I got 1 more minute. Some of the guys on Discord saw this the other day. I want to show you. I got an episode coming up, and just before we leave, I'm going to show you all the episodes that I got listed coming up and planning. But one of them is going to be an overclocking episode. And to do max overclocking, you need a good cooler. So this is the cooling solution. It's called Ice Tower, 2 words, for my Raspberry Pi. It uses thermal dope and everything. You put that on your CPU and you put it on here, and you put that on, and there's rails to crank it down and screw it down. And wow. Now there's a lot of people who do over the top things that aren't designed for Pis. I saw one this week where somebody took an Intel stock heatsink and fan. It's about 1.5 times the size of a Pi, and they mounted it on there with their own creative. Yeah, it's awesome.
That sounds epic.
Yes. All right, let me tell you, here's my list. The muse was upon me the other day, and so I started thinking about, I got 8 seconds, I'll do it, episodes we can do. So today we did Raspberry Pi SSH keys. Then I'm going to do, I don't know what the order of these is going to be, I'll let you know. Find your Raspberry Pi on the network using zeroconf and or bonjour protocol. So you'll be able to always refer to your Pi by name instead of by IP address. We're going to set up a real DNS server. So you can set up a domain in your home and name your computers raspi1.local, raspi2.local. I don't imagine you have any other computers, so they're all going to be raspi something.local. And we're going to use Unbound. Bind is the old one that used to be a DNS server in Linux. It has been almost completely supplanted by the bigger, newer, more powerful Unbound. And then, oh man, I'm ready for this. I'm excited about this. And we're going to install Docker on Raspberry. Alice and I are really excited about, I finally found a usable, good Raspberry Pi cluster tutorial. Been doing it.
Cool.
We have a thing called kiosk mode for Chromium. How to bring up a web page as a full page so you don't see any borders or backgrounds or anything like that about it. And if you got a touchscreen thing, then you can navigate it on there. So they're great for kiosks, like in the mall. You are here and ads pop up on it and they don't know that they're looking at a browser. It looks like a sign. I got one that's a personal favorite of mine. A friend and I developed this. I did very little of the development, but we're going to do another LED project, one simple LED hooked up. I'll give you a week's notice so you can build up your LED and follow the old tutorial we did with that. And then we're going to have it flash Morse code your IP address. It's going to be cool. And then the last one that I have on my list, overclocking the Raspberry Pi. All right, we're running long, or about a minute over. Last time I did this actually came up perfect as far as YouTube time goes. So I'm going to wish you all the happiest of holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's. Stay safe. As Scott said, Mike's here regular time on Monday. I will see you again if he lets me check in. You'll see me on text to be sure. And otherwise, I'll see you. Anybody interested on January 1st? Scott, good plans for Christmas besides Zooming with the family?
That's it. Hanging with the family. All right,
All right.
yeah.
Well, everybody have a great week.
Happy
Monday.
holidays.
Mwah. Here we go. Oops, got to do that to match you. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's see how long.
I have no idea whether my